Are you a podcaster looking to buy a brand new Zoom L8 LiveTrak? Maybe you're looking to compare it against the famous Zoom H6 or even the fantastic RØDECaster Pro. What is in it for you as a podcaster? Okay, I've been very fortunate enough to receive a brand new Zoom LIveTrak L-8 from the guys at Gear for Music, and I'm excited about this. I'm a big tech head, and I'm recording right now actually using my RØDECaster Pro, so I'm a big fan of these all-in-one podcast units, and just a huge fan of the movement towards this all-in-one style system. The Zoom H6 has been a staple of many podcasters' setups for such a long time. I've got one, I've got a Zoom H4, and I've used them for such a long time. But very recently, the last year or so, I moved to the RØDECaster Pro here in the studio at home and in the studio at Rebel Base Media. So when the guys at Zoom sent me this, the guys at Gear for Music said, "What do you think? Do you want to go and try it?" Of course, I wanted to try it. So I'm going to put this thing through its paces in another video. But for now, I want to show you, the podcaster, exactly what you get for your money with this Zoom LIveTrak L8. Okay, so we've got the Zoom out of the box. It's a nifty little thing. It is. It's small and cute and really lightweight. Obviously, you get your cables, you get your plugs, you get everything else that you'd expect. You get all your paperwork. And it's got a little USB to micro USB, which plugs in nicely to the back. The first thing that I really noticed with this is that against the RØDECaster, I mean, it just looks a little more complex. That's the only thing that really strikes me first of all, is that it just looks a little bit more complex. So I'm keen to put this through its paces when I go traveling. But, you know, it seems to have everything that you'd expect on there that the RØDECaster's got and that you'd expect from a mixing desk as well. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channels here. And it appears that, interestingly, you've got 6 microphone inputs. So that against the Zoom H6 and against the RØDECaster Pro, both of those only have 4 inputs, XLR inputs or whatever inputs you want to use. It looks like it's the hybrid that you can use the jack with as well. And then you've got two what appear to be 2 beds of sound. So you've got what seems to be a sound pad here, similar to the RØDECaster Pro. I'm assuming, I've not tried it yet. This is the first unboxing. I am going to take this away with me on a trip. But it looks like you can probably assign these sounds like you can on the RØDECaster Pro. It feels to me like this is a mixing desk chassis that has been repurposed into like this MVP version. So like the not necessarily an MVP because that sounds a little unfair, but into this version 1 of the Zoom. It feels like that is, it's not been approached necessarily from a main usability perspective, like the RØDECaster seemed to have been designed from scratch to be an entire setup just for podcasters. There's a little less control than a lot of podcasters like in terms of the audio, but unless you're a big audiophile, I'm not. I just love good audio, but I'm not the kind of person that's going to dig into boosting the mids or cutting the tops. You know, I let the RØDECaster do that job for me. It feels like this looks a little more complex, but maybe, you know, we've got input gain and we've got obviously output volume. We've got the ability to mute and we can boost some of the frequencies or cut some of the frequencies at the top here. I'm not a professional audio person. I'm a podcaster. I'm not the audiophile, all right? There are people that are better than me at that. So for me, as the podcaster, instantly this is looks a bit complex. But I think that is purely just because it's kind of plugged into a chassis that already exists, where I think maybe version 2 of this thing will maybe be more designed around the podcaster's needs. There's a couple of interesting things at the top. You've got a couple of line-ins as well. You can use a bit of a line-in. So maybe that's actually what these 2 channels are for, the line-ins. But where does the sound pad then pan to? I don't know. I'm not quite sure about that. I'll have to check into that when I use it. A couple of outputs for XLRs, which you can use to send out to a speaker system or whatever, the same as the RØDECaster. You've got some monitor outs as well, which again, you know, as a podcaster, that strikes me as odd. Like, why do we really need that? Yeah, it's headphones. Of course we need headphones, but it just seems a bit complex in terms of where you can kind of add the mixers, and you've got 6 channel inputs, but you've only got what, 4 headphone outputs. So that kind of feels a little weird. So, I mean, like I said, it looks kind of cute. It's very well built. It's stable. But the interesting thing here is that it takes an SD card, a normal SD card in the back, which is fine. Takes a, normal SD card. So I run micro SDs, little mini SD things for my RØDECaster and a few other things. So just using the standard adapter, that would work there. You've got your power button on the back and a locking system so you can lock it to a desk. But what I love about this is where this for me really has a place. In many podcasters' production workflows, you can stick rechargeable batteries in this thing, and that is huge for me. You know, I love the RØDECaster Pro. I really love it. But when I was going away, I was always having to take my Zoom H6, which was fine because it's a great bit of kit. You know, it's this small little thing. You can put 4 inputs into it, plug in a couple of my microphones, all well and good. Works really, really well. But this, because of how light it is, it really, like, this is really light. There's nothing to it. It's probably not that much heavier than a Zoom H6. Sure, the profile of it is a lot bigger. It's a desk ultimately. But if you have the room, this is a fantastic looking start for a revamped mobile rig for someone. Now, my first impression of this is that it looks a little bit too complex in terms of, okay, if you're a podcaster, but I think that's because I'm coming from the RØDECaster, and I've used desks, I've used Behringer desks before in the studio. The Zoom LIveTrak L-8 here isn't any more complex. In fact, it's less complex than any of the old desks that I used to use. So in comparison to the RØDECaster, yeah, sure, it looks a little bit more complex, but maybe that's a bit of an unfair comparison, because if you're coming from a desk or not using anything at all, maybe you're used to going into Audition or something like that, into your computer. This LIveTrak L-8, because the price is a lot lower than the RØDECaster, if you are thinking maybe I'm going to be doing mobile recording as well as studio recording, this is a really good start for the Zoom. It really is a good start, because I could unplug this, take my mics with me, and off I go doing a mobile recording, go out and do some recording elsewhere, come back, plug it in, easy as that. Now, I haven't used this thing yet. I'm recording this before I go away. I'm taking this away with me. All of my own show, the Podcast Accelerator, will be recorded on this L8 whilst I'm out on the road. And I'm going to load up the music beds. I'm going to look at what the apps are like on the computer to link these things up. I'm going to check the recording system. I'm going to check the recording setup. I'm going to look at what the sound quality is like compared to the Rode, compared to the H6. But my first impression as a podcaster, this unboxing, is that looks a little bit too complex, but I think I'm being a little bit unfair on it because I'm coming from the RØDECaster. I think this is actually a really nice little setup. Really nice little setup. It's got a battery pack on the back, which it's kind of a game changer, you know. I could use this in my studio, use it wherever I want, take it mobile with me. For one piece of equipment that gets me all the workflow that I need as a podcaster in terms of recording, this is a real solid choice, okay? In another video, I'm going to be looking at the performance of this thing, all right? So hit subscribe, jump on the channel. We're going to dig into the Zoom LIveTrak L-8 a little bit more. And let me know in the comments if you're thinking about grabbing one, all right? And if you have one, let me know what you think.